Michelle Offenberger from the Career Development and Placement Assistant Office, Career Services for lack of a better word. She's here tonight to talk to us all about cover letters, resumes, interviewing, and to answer questions that you might have in regards to those things. So, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So as he said, I'm from the Office of Career Development and Placement Assistance. Just by a show of hands, how many of you know where our office is located? How many of you who know where it's located have been to our office? Awesome. That's a good 4 of you. So, well, I'm glad that you've come and I welcome you back. I'm going to challenge all of you to make it into our office by the end of this semester. I think that after today you'll find out that we have a lot of great resources that we can really help you out with. I would like to know kind of where you guys are in terms of what year you are in school. Freshmen? Raise your hand if you're not a freshman. What year are you guys?
We're first semester senior.
First semester senior?
I'm a junior.
Junior?
I'm a sophomore.
Perfect. Everybody, awesome. So this will definitely apply to all of you. I do like to say if this can be very informal. So if at any time I see something that's not, that's not really clear or confusing and you have a question, just raise your hand. I'd be happy to answer it right on the spot. So before we get started, again, this is going to be very interactive, so I'm going to ask you to raise your hand a lot like you're 5 years old. So how many of you have a resume? Okay, awesome. That's good. Did you have to do it for school in high school, or? I had a student the other day that told me that they had to make one in 8th grade, which I thought was pretty awesome. But yeah, a lot of students have to make resumes for coming to college. How long do you guys think a resume should be?
1 page.
1 page? Any other answers? What if my resume is 2 pages? Is that okay? Couple of, yeah. A 2-page resume is okay. Typically, we like to recommend that students keep it to 1 page. We have lots of tricks up our sleeve to help you get a 2-page resume to a 1-page resume. It can be as little as changing the font size to taking away spacing or just different formatting. A 2-page resume is okay whenever you have so much relevant experience that it just won't fit. That happens a lot, especially as you become a senior or even, post-grad. You go to graduate school or, you go into the workforce. Maybe you've had all of these internships and all these wonderful opportunities and they just will not fit on 1 page. So sometimes a 2-page resume is acceptable. What I like to mention to students is if you're going to have a 2-page resume, try to make sure that there's something on that first page that indicates that there's a second page. So whether it be putting at the bottom, your last name, page 1. Obviously, if you're taking the time and space to put that, there must be a second page. The reason for that is you run the risk of them not ever seeing what's on the second page. So, excuse me, my mouth's a little dry today. So you want to make sure that they see all of that experience. When do you, let me take a step back. Actually, I'll go ahead and hand out I have a handout here. For those of you that have been to our office, I'll start some up here and some in the back, may have seen this handout. It's just a general template for, actually, can I have one of those? It's just a very general template to show you kind of what a resume can look like. Does this mean that this is what your resume has to look like? No. This is just more or less to show you what different things you can put on a resume. So for example, who can tell me something on here? Well, I'll give you a second to look over it. The front is, like I mentioned, the template. On the back are just some general suggestions to keep in mind when making it. So you don't want to say, like for example, using professional terminology. A lot of people think that you can just say, put cash register. We recommend starting with a verb. So, handled money with, thank you. Handled money, or some sort, starting your explanation, thank you, with a verb, or explaining more specifically what you did with the cash register. It may sound silly, even if you were a grocery store clerk or something like that. It may seem silly to have to explain what you did, but ultimately employers want to know what you did specifically at this job. So if you don't explain to them, you're leaving yourself open to interpretation. So they could think that you did, nothing, that you stood around at the cash register and talked to the buddy at the next cash register. So they like to see what you do. Can anybody tell me what they if they notice anything about this template and maybe what it does include or what it doesn't include? Does anybody notice that high school is not on there? The high school is not recommended. As freshmen, it is okay to put your high school experiences on there, because as a freshman you may not have some of those experiences like joining a club or an organization or getting really involved or even having an internship. So as a freshman it is completely acceptable to have high school information on there. The goal is that by the end of your sophomore year, nothing from high school will be remaining on your resume. Everything's going to be from college. So that's kind of what this template goes with, is to help you see how you cannot, put this information on here without high school. That's the same color paper, but it's not what we're, thank you. We're talking. You're welcome. Something else, do you notice if it says anything like, I like to walk my dog, or I like skydiving? Do you notice that on here anywhere? Employers don't necessarily care about your personal interests. They want to know about your professional self and what you can bring to the table. So they want to know about those internships, those clubs, your involvement, what you can bring to them that maybe another applicant can't. So we try to recommend students stray away from putting those types of interests on there. Unless, for example, I helped a student today who was applying for a fellowship, a teaching fellowship at a boarding school. And part of I don't know if any of you are familiar with boarding schools, but part of your expectation is to coach or to teach something. So she had extensive experience in swimming. So she put 12 years experience in swimming on her resume, not because it was an interest, but because it was relevant to the position that she was applying for. So in cases like that, if you're applying for a skydiving internship or something along those lines, it would be appropriate to put that on your resume. So I like to mention that so that I don't scare you away from, I'm not saying you can't ever put interest, but just make sure that they're relevant to whatever you're applying for. I do like to draw attention, if you look down here at the bottom, there is it says other experience. I actually don't like this handout for the pure fact that it says other experience. I think if you're putting experience on your resume, that it should be labeled as some type of experience. Was it volunteer experience? Was it leadership experience? Was it work experience? It should be labeled as some type of experience, because again, other experience to me doesn't really sound professional. Excuse me. Let's look at the back. Excuse me. So, if you look at the I guess it's the second to last bullet. It says to avoid resume template programs. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we recommend that? How many of you have made a resume in a resume template program? Tell me, have you tried to go back and alter your resume?
Yeah, they end up being very the same, just kind of boring and calm, and you can't change everything.
Exactly. It's very difficult when using a template to change anything, and you run the risk of your resume looking exactly like somebody else's who also used a template. Ultimately, I like to think of your resume as a work of art. It's something that's your own. You can take ideas from other people's resumes and put it into your own, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's yours. your experiences are completely different than somebody else's. So, as he mentioned, template programs. So let's say, you come to college and you join 3 organizations and you want to put those on your resume. Let's say you become a secretary of one and, you're a member of an honors, fraternity or organization, and you go to put that in and you find that you can't fit it because of this template. Templates add a lot of spaces that aren't really necessary, and like he mentioned from personal experience, it's very difficult for you to change things once you get it in the template. Does anybody have any questions so far? One other thing that we like to point out when making your resume is explaining what you did. As I mentioned before, even if it's just your cash register job, or you were a hostess or a waiter at a position at a restaurant. Almost everybody in here has been to a restaurant. You know what a hostess does. You know what a waiter or a waitress does. However, like I said, explaining it more thoroughly and using those action verbs at the beginning of your sentence. We have a list of very powerful action verbs in our office that we can provide to you to help you in assisting you to make those explanations very clear and concise. Now, when making those explanations, as I just mentioned, using a verb, the verb should be in the proper tense. So if I'm sorry, I'm giving you an English lesson, but this is actually a very common mistake made on resumes. If it's a past position, the verb should be in past tense. If it's a present position, it should be as if you're currently doing whatever it is that's on that page. So keeping that in mind when writing your explanations. Also, try to keep your information as quantitative as possible. So let's say that as a hostess, you trained 5 new employees. Don't just put, I trained new employees. Put that you trained 5 employees, because that gives them an idea of, if you just put trained employees, they could assume, okay, she could have trained 1 or she could have trained 20. So giving them, more concise information about what specifically you did. Now, there's another thing on here that I like to bring attention to, and it says not to leave unexplained gaps, because the employer could just assume that you're sitting on your couch eating potato chips all summer, or that's why you don't have a job, or that's why you weren't involved. That's not necessarily true. Are there any engineering majors in here? Did somebody raise it? I thought there was. Did you raise your hand or? No. Okay. Are there any pre-med? So, are you pre-med like biology, or what's your majors? Neuroscience. Bio. Okay. What's bio? So those majors, they're not easy majors. They're very intensive, and you have to spend a lot of time on your schoolwork. So you don't have as much time to get involved, to join these organizations, to get a job. So in situations like that, it's okay to have those unexplained gaps on your resume, because you literally cannot do anything else. It's very common with engineering majors. Your coursework is just very intensive, and it's very difficult to do anything else other than school. So in cases like that, it's absolutely okay. If a lot of students will say, well, what about, I mow lawns for my neighbors in the summer. How do I put that on there? You can put yourself as a freelance lawnmower. I mean, essentially that's what you're doing. You're not working for a company, you're working for yourself. And again, as small as it is, it's putting that job in there so that they don't assume, that you're sitting on your couch watching TV all summer. So now I'm going to jump to cover letters. Can anybody tell me what a cover letter is, or what its purpose is? Yes.
So it's like introduce yourself and say why you're applying in the first place.
Okay.
What you can offer to the employer, and sort of background information. Something that can be said in the resume itself.
That was perfect. Did everybody hear what he said? Some of you were shaking your head yes or no. That's exactly right. You're explaining to the employer why, essentially why they should choose you. So things that you go more into depth of your resume, you know, what things that you can't necessarily explain in your resume, but you can explain in a cover letter. How many of you can tell me, or who can tell me how long a cover letter should be? A page, exactly. Is it okay, like the resume, that if it's 2 pages? No, it should not be 2 pages. It's going to be a very formalized letter to the employer. Is it okay to submit a resume without a cover letter? Some of you are shaking your head yes. Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? You should never submit a resume without a cover letter. Even if they don't ask for one, you should always send a cover letter with your resume. It's okay, you weren't the only one. Everybody raised their hand that it's okay that you don't. The reason being is because even if they don't ask for one and you send one, you're showing that you took that extra time, that extra initiative to do that and write this letter. And that could be the difference between saying, okay, you know, candidate X didn't send one and has really great experience, but candidate Y has some experience, but they took the time and explained to me why I should pick them in their cover letter. So it could really be a make or break situation in terms of whether or not employers look further into you in terms of hiring you as an intern or as an employee. I also have a cover letter handout for you. It's really bright. This will wake you up for those of you that are falling asleep. I apologize if this information is boring. Oh yeah, thank you. I'll give you guys a second to pass those around and take a look at it. While you're passing those around, does anybody have any questions yet? Any specific questions? You guys are falling asleep. You're tired. Go ahead.
So like the co-op fair, don't they say cover letters there and actually mean like they just want the resume? I know I did that last semester, and I think.
You mean the career fair?
Yeah, and the co-op fair.
And the co-op fair. Are you an engineer?
Computer science.
Oh, okay. You're a technical major. So you should have raised your hand. I should have said technical. I shouldn't have generalized engineering. That's another technical major where you're so immersed in your coursework. He asked an excellent question. He said, when coming to a career fair or a co-op fair, if you're a technical major, should you bring a cover letter? You can, but ultimately they're not going to take the time to stand there and read your one-page cover letter at the career fair or co-op fair. So it's okay to just bring a resume with you. Now, with that being said, there's something I actually forgot to mention about resumes. Is it okay to send just a general resume? Is it okay to send the exact same resume to all the companies that you're applying to? No, you should definitely tailor it to the company. So if you go back and look at that resume template that I gave you, you'll notice that there's a related experience section. Ideally, that's going to be where you'll input any relevant experiences that you have to the job. If the job involves making copies and you have a job from high school or a job here on campus where you make copies, that relevant experience, that's going to be right there in that relevant experience. So it could be, like I said, as small as that, or it could be, if something more major, if it involves, using lab equipment, like you pre-med students who have to take those science labs. If the job involves that, you can put that in there as maybe part of your class or part of, if it was part of a prior position that you've had. Now, excuse me, if you look at this template, you'll notice that it breaks it up in terms of paragraphs. So you can see, so this literally tells you what should go in each paragraph. And like he mentioned before, this is basically you explaining to the employer why they should hire you. So should you copy everything from your resume, including your descriptions, and put it in here because that's why you're qualified? You got that one right. No, you should not. You're going to go more into depth about what is relevant and how those specific experiences make you the perfect candidate. Now, going back to my similar question with the resumes, is it okay to send a general cover letter to each employer? If you can't send a general resume, you should not send a general cover letter. Your cover letters may be very similar if you're applying to similar positions. However, if you notice in the first paragraph, you're going to mention the specific job and the specific company that you're applying to. So if you're applying for a job at BNY Mellon and you send them your PNC cover letter, they're going to throw that out right away because you didn't change the company. They could have had the exact same position titles, but you've got to change the company. They also want to know how you found out about the position. Did you find out about it on Pitt's website? Did you find out about it on FutureLinks? Did you find out about it in the Post-Gazette? How did you find out about this position? They want to know where students are finding out about these positions. Now, have any of you gotten jobs without a cover letter? I'm sure many of you have. As you get older and graduate college, cover letters are always expected. Like I said, it's part of the professional world, and it can make or break your chances, of becoming a future employee or intern at that company. If you look on the back, you can see a sample. This is a political science, I believe. A student majoring in political science. Is anybody in here majoring in political science? Is anybody thinking law school? It's okay. A lot of students think law school. So cover letters are definitely in those situations going to be necessary. This is to help you see kind of what the wording will sound like. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face the information that you can include, but this will help you to see exactly, what the professional jargon is, how you can, make it sound a little bit better, even if it was just making copies, filing papers, mowing lawns. They want to know your work ethic, how you can essentially be a great asset to their company. Does anybody have any questions? Is anybody falling asleep? All of you are falling asleep. I'll try to make this more exciting. Are any of you applying for internships currently? Some of you? Is anybody thinking that maybe this summer or next year they want to get an internship for sure? All of you should be raising your hand. Yes, you should be saying, yes, I want an internship. I encourage you to start getting internships as soon as you can. A lot of freshmen do get internships after the summer after your first year. Now, I don't want to say that all freshmen do, because a lot of companies are not willing to take freshmen just because you're still in your gen eds, you're not really fully into your majors yet. Some of you may not even have majors. Was that you? Okay. No, it just scared me. So the sooner you start getting internships, the sooner you can, the more you can get, which ultimately increases your chances of being able to get a job after graduation. It will also help you in terms of knowing which major is right for you. Is anybody in here a communications major? English writing or English? Why don't you just tell me what your majors are? Athletic training. You already told me. Computer science. Bio. Neuroscience. Undecided? Bio.
Psychology and administration and justice.
Neuroscience?
French, German, English, management.
Look at you.
Undeclared.
Undeclared? Emergency medicine, you told me. I'm sorry. Economics? You told me. Psych? Bio. What was that? Okay. Sociology. Rehab science. Okay. Now that will help me. So for those of you that are undecided, are you thinking anything in particular? Do you have an idea about what you might want to do?
Pre-med.
Pre-med. Okay. Do you have an idea? Pre-law? Okay. It's okay. It's okay to not know. I had a junior come in last week who was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Help me. So it's okay to not know what you want to do. There was an anthropology. Who was anthropology? So that's one of the, so there's some majors like anthropology, communications, English writing, like I mentioned, even psychology, where it's really important to narrow down the specific route you want to take. It sounds like a lot of you are very interested in pre-med and the medical field in general. So that's excellent. But knowing what aspect or what route you want to take within those is really important. And what better way to figure that out than internships, volunteer opportunities, getting involved. You may go do an internship at a high school shadowing a athletic trainer, and it may be completely opposite than what you thought it was. You say, this is not what I thought it was. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to switch my major. I doubt that's going to happen to you. It sounds like that's a major that typically people stick with, but that may happen for a lot of you. You may, maybe you just don't pass the classes. For those of you that are pre-med, it's a very difficult major, or very difficult path to pursue. And a lot of students are choosing to drop that just because it's much more difficult than they anticipate. And that's okay. That's normal. So I like to really emphasize that. However, I like to also emphasize those volunteer experiences and shadowing and internships so that you can help to figure out what field is for you. Because like I said, I had a junior who got an internship after her sophomore year, and it was not, she waited till after her sophomore year, beginning of junior year to get this internship, and it was not what she thought it was. And now she feels lost because it's spring semester, junior year, and she doesn't know what she wants to do. Don't let that be you, but it's okay if it is. We can help you. Are there any questions yet? You guys don't have to ask me questions about cover letters and resumes. You can ask me general questions about our office. Yes?
Should we put our permanent address or the address that we're living at now?
On your resume?
Yeah.
Or in a cover letter? That's a good question. In terms of your address, some students will put both. I typically recommend sticking to one. So are you from Pittsburgh?
No, I'm like outside Philly.
Okay, a lot of students here at Pitt are from Philly. So let's say you're going home this summer and you're applying to internships or jobs in Philly. And they may look at your Pittsburgh address and be like, why are they applying here in Philly? So make sure, so in that case, you would put your Philly address. But I would recommend putting your cell phone number and an email that you're easily able to reach at. In terms of applying, if you have an address where you're looking to apply, that's okay. I would put that, but also, otherwise it's okay to put just your current address here on campus. Are there any other questions? Who knows where our office is? Who knows where our office is that hasn't been there? Who in this room is a freshman and hasn't been to our office and knows where it is?
We actually know where it is now, I just remembered.
Where is it?
It's in alumni. Or no, it's not. I didn't mean to say that. It's in the William Pitt Union.
It's in the William Pitt Union. Do you know what floor?
Third.
Second floor. We're on the second. Oh, it is on the bottom of your paper. So if you cheated, that doesn't count. So we are located on the second floor of the Union. We take up the whole second floor. So if you come up and think you're in the wrong place, you're not. Our office is that big. We have a staff of 25, which is actually very large for Office of Career Development. So we have people that specialize in all different areas. So we have the way our office works, for those of you that don't know, is we have career consultants, and each career consultant specializes in a specific area of study. So for you technical majors, so information science, computer science, engineering, your career consultant would be Jim McCarthy. He specializes in all of those technical majors. For all of you that are pre-med and majoring in a science major, Rich Fan is your career consultant. He specializes in that area and knows specifically more information about that. I personally work with liberal arts majors and undecided students. And more frequently, I've been working with business, foreign language, econ, oh God, a lot. Mostly arts and sciences, almost all of arts and sciences.